Now, pretty much every backup and recovery application, well, should be able to recover a virtual machine. And recovering that virtual machine in the entire VM format, well, that's not terribly exciting. This instant VM recovery, however, that VM provides, is an entirely different animal. Entire VM recovery, although is undeniably useful, but the process of transferring all that data to resurrect the virtual machine takes time. Contrast that with instant VM recovery, where we speed up the entire process by mounting and running that virtual machine directly from its backup file, right there on the repository. We've kind of skipped over this wizard page there a couple of times in configuring these different repositories. But one of the wizard pages there talks about this whole vPower NFS configuration associated with our mount server. We've enabled it, and so this vPower NFS is enabled on our mount servers. It's the tool that actually mounts the VM backup file to an ESXi host while retaining those original backups as read-only. So we are enabling some read-write on that virtual machine while still keeping the original backup in its pristine location and format. Once we do that, we can power on the virtual machine and use it like a regular virtual machine. Performance may not necessarily be the best, depending on the performance there of our repository, but it is going to get us online much faster than having to copy everything over. Once we know that we have the virtual machine then powered on and we're using it again, we can then use other tools like VMware Storage vMotion, Replication, VM Copy, or even Quick Migration to finalize that VM recovery and get the virtual machine files then transferred. We still have to transfer the files, but now we can do so in the background while the virtual machine continues to operate. Let's then take a look at this process of how we actually get instant VM recovery configured by using this same use case here of our File 1 machine that's been powered down. Let's go back here to File 1. I'll right-click once again and choose to restore, but this time I'm going to do an instant VM recovery. For this, I can choose again the different restore points that we have. Let me choose the latest one down here at 10 p.m. last night. I'll choose next down here, and we can choose which recovery mode we want to use. Do we want to restore it to the original location or a new location with different settings? And also down here, if there are any tags, do we want to restore those as well? We will ultimately be restoring this to its original location. Here next, I then can choose Secure Restore. Again, I won't be performing this because of the extra processing that's required, and I just happen to know that there isn't any malware on this machine. Again, I'll go here to Next and choose a Restore reason. I'm going to restore it just because. And then once I've done here, I can choose Next and then connect the virtual machine to a network and power it on right over here to then complete this process. This will then go through the setup process for making this virtual machine available there using vPower NFS and running then off of my original ESXi host. So what we're about to see here is actually pretty cool in terms of what it does. Let me choose Restore here, making sure that the original server is powered off so that we don't have two copies running at the same time. You'll notice here that the original VM still exists and will be deleted. Are we okay with that? Yep, we know that this machine is currently no longer really running. So let's now go through the VM recovery process and getting this virtual machine booted directly from our repository. Let me pause things here for just a couple of seconds. And after just a couple of seconds, we can see here that the new virtual machine is now powering on. In fact, let me show you back over here. If I come back here to vCenter, and if I choose to refresh right over here, I should see that virtual machine soon powering on over here in our remote location. Here is our File 1 machine right there. Here for File 1, we can actually take a look at which disks this virtual machine is now backed by. And so while we're watching the power on process here, in fact, now it's currently powered on, let's take a look at the server data store here. Let's look at the data store right here. And for our data center right here, let's choose Configure right here. And under our, in fact, not right there, but rather over here on the virtual machines, here under our Veeam backup view right here, I'll eventually get to the right spot, we can now see here's the file that we're actually then working with here for this virtual machine. Here is our File 1. There's the VMX file. Here is the NVRAM file. There's the VMDK file. And this is currently being backed by that whole NFS-based mount that is existing over there in a repository. If I come here now under Configure, I knew I'd get there eventually. If I come here now under Configure, I can take a look here at our general view right here to see indeed, yep, this is an NFS3 base partition. And down here under, I think it's under device backing right here, yep, here's the current location, 3.160. So this is our repository server there, Veeam1. So indeed, we do have a virtual machine that is currently powered on and running right off of our repository. I can further confirm things down here. If I come here to our command prompt and I open it there as administrator, if I ping our VM1 file here, I should be able to ping File 1 and see indeed, we do have a successful connection there to File 1. So indeed, we do now have this virtual machine very quickly up and operational. Let me return back over here to the Veeam console, because now that this machine is running off of the repository, this is great to get it back online, but this repository has other activities that it needs to participate in, like all the other backups that we're working with. So let me choose Finish here to go through one final step in the process, which is then to migrate this virtual machine there back to its production location. Here under Home right here, let's go to our inventory. And here under, I think right down here under Instant Recovery right there, this is our File1 machine that's currently mounted there on the repo. Let me take a look at this, right-click, and then migrate this machine to production. This is the last step in the process, obviously, because it returns the machine back to ESXi1, to the correct resource pool, to the right VM folder, and back here to its original data store, the VM's data store there. If I choose Next, I can choose my source and target proxy here if I want to, and I can also force Veeam's quick migration as opposed to VMware's vMotion if I want to. For my purposes here, I'll just choose Next down here to kick off this migration back to its original location. Once I'm done here, I'll choose Finish and allow the process to complete. This is now what's necessary to restore this virtual machine back to its original location while still allowing it to continue functioning there currently mounted from that repository.